All right, Justin. Hi, and how are you today?
I'm doing great, Rokas. How are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm doing good, doing good.
Good.
It's a day for me. But let's make it today's chat all about you
All
and all
right.
about the rope flow. So to start with, can you introduce yourself?
I can, yeah. So my name is Justin. I live in the United States in Maryland, and I have been a personal trainer involved in the fitness industry since 2005. Um, I started out as kind of a traditional um, weightlifting, hypertrophy in that vein. But then in 2008, I got diagnosed with Lyme disease. And for those who don't know, Lyme disease is sometimes referred to as transmissible arthritis. So I really had, after that, really started to want to get very aware of the type of activity I was doing and its impact longer term. So I got certified as a yoga instructor in 2008 and then started Tai Chi in 2009. Um, Most of my career I've been working with senior citizens, so like post rehab, um, people looking to maintain their longevity and mobility as they get older. Um, and long story short, I picked up a rope and started really seriously trying to get into rope flow this year, probably in April.
Okay, so it's been
So
like a half a year for you now. So
just about, yeah.
all right. And how did you find out about the rope flow?
The Facebook algorithm, they've gotten really, really good at picking stuff that I would be interested in. And I kept seeing ads. I kept seeing you doing the rope flow in ads. And I'm like, I should try that because that looks like something I'd like. Um, because, especially since doing Tai Chi, I've kind of really been fascinated with the idea of flow and transitional movements. Um, but the thing with Tai Chi is it's done in slow motion. So
Mhm.
where Tai Chi can be very good for um, motor learning, for building flow with your body, it's not very good exercise. So the rope flow for me was kind of a way to take that interest in dynamic movement, flowing movement, and be able to make it a little bit more physical.
Yeah, so as I understand, Tai Chi is more like an internal martial art where you're working with your mind more because of those slow movements and energy manipulation inside. They just
Yeah, so it's trying to get the body coordinated and harmonized so that the hands and feet move at the same time. And like you said, the harmonizing the internal and external aspects of it. So I think that really kind of gave me a good foundation for coming into rope flow with, footwork, with trying to maintain awareness of breathing, with trying to be aware of different parts of the body at the same time. But really, at the beginning of the year, I was coming off of post COVID break where I wasn't working out. I gained a bunch of weight. So I was really looking for something to try to get back in better shape to lose weight.
Mhm.
Um, and rope flow really fit that for me because it has, I feel, a lot of the same internal aspects, the same um, awareness, mindfulness, and intentionality that you get from yoga and Tai Chi, but you can do it at real world speed. You don't have to slow it down. Um, so yeah, I really thought it was a natural progression for me, skill wise, um, to be able to do those type of movements more dynamically.
All right. Well, yeah, that's really nice insight about the similarities and the differences as well.
Yeah.
Uh, so it leads me towards asking you about your rope flow goal. What it what it is, if you have any.
Yeah. So one of the other programs that I've been doing, it's a body weight uh, calisthenic training system, and they do some acrobatic movements.
Mhm.
So I would actually really like to try to combine, or well, really build myself up to the point where I can do some more acrobatic movements and combine that with the rope flow. So most of my rope flow training right now is geared toward trying to build endurance and trying to move it into moves like the flying dragon, dragon pirouette, dragon switches. I'm trying to play with some of those more dynamic hops and rotations as a way to build my endurance, agility, and maneuverability. So I probably will go through at some point and try to learn more tricks and skills, but my personal goal is to try to take that into the bigger acrobatic dynamic movements like butterfly kicks and those type of things.
Oh, these are awesome. That's what Theo, the German coach, is
Right.
working on in an Octomoves app with that acro yoga. I guess he has like 2 or 3 lessons now, and we keep
I'll
like,
have to check that out.
yeah, we keep
I was
talking.
chatting with him on the app, and he mentioned um, one of the movements I was been working on was an underhand matador to like a 180-degree rotation. And he said, "Oh, you're just doing a butterfly kick, but I do it with the dragon roll instead of the matador." So I tried it the other day, and I'm hopefully going to be able to try to get a video of it because I did it and it felt fairly successful. So we'll see what it looks like in person.
So do you have any definition of about when is the rope flow successful for you, or how you identify that you or anybody else are kind of proficient in some rope flow patterns?
Proficiency, that's kind of a tough question because I feel like proficiency with the rope really means being in communication with it. So when you hit yourself with the rope, that's a message that either your timing is off, that you're fatiguing, that you were trying a pattern that's too complicated. So I would say being proficient or being successful is to be able to understand the communication from the rope without being frustrated by it. I think that sometimes we encounter a movement that we're not successful with or that we haven't unlocked yet, but we can still be successful at it if we're getting positive feedback from our practice. That for me is a great definition of success because you're understanding what the issue is. So we don't always have to nail a move perfectly to be successful. If you get a positive impact from your training, whether or not you've nailed the move, doesn't mean you weren't successful because you've learned to communicate with the rope. I think learning the physics of movement and how your body communicates with the rope is the most important thing. So if I can't do a flow that looks like your flow, that doesn't mean I'm not a good flower, a flowist. That means that I'm at a different point in my progression.
Yeah,
so
well,
for
that's
me,
amazing. Yeah, it's we all start at different levels, and we are at the different points in our life. So our success can be measured completely differently.
Right.
And like what you just been explaining, this is like really, really wonderful message for those who are just starting and just don't get frustrated what you're doing, or if it's something doesn't happen. Like in the other day, one of the members in the app posted that she was struggling to make a certain pattern for like quite few days, and she's been doing that for an hour every day, and she's still doing it.
I thought that was amazing. An hour.
Like,
I wish I could do it for an hour.
that's the part that is successful. That
I agree.
she had so much like energy put in, and like spend an hour like working on something that she cares about it, and like that's amazing. Who cares like your goal? Like we actually like to achieve it, and it's like it's nice and amazing and we feel good. But yeah, trust the process. That would be the short message about it. So
well, and that's something that I've really come to love about rope flow is that it's so there's such a breadth to the practice, right? Like I'm trying to do it right now to improve my cardiovascular endurance and my physical agility, but you can use it for rehabilitation. Like I try to do it literally every day, for at least 20 minutes up to half an hour. But some days I can't do the jumps. I can't do, so I take it and I go out and you flow slowly, and you focus on your range of motion and your breathing. So I've, even if I were to work with somebody on the rope, I would feel comfortable using it with somebody who is post rehab, who's trying to rehab from a joint injury, who is trying to improve coordination. And I would also use it with somebody who is interested in applications for martial arts or boxing. There's such a wide range of application for it that even a fairly limited repertoire of movements, you can have a lot of application for that. Like you can do overhand matador and throws slowly as a shoulder mobility, or you can speed it up and do it at high tempo for a cardio workout. And that's kind of what excites me about it. It's not just how I can use it, but if I could share it with people in my life, there's always kind of an entry point for it. And there's always a benefit and a positive application for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. That feels like this is like what is important to you in this practice as a rope flow.
Yeah.
You can use it for yourself. You can help others to implement it and just share this message. That's beautiful, Justin. Like I like how you talk and how you expressing, because all of those thoughts are like has a little bit of romantic taste as well.
I get a little melodramatic sometimes.
Yeah, but it's for me, as like English is my third language, so it's so nice to hear all of those thoughts and expressions of people who can freely talk in English and express themselves as they want it. For me, it's a bit harder, but I'm trying my best explaining what I mean. Sometimes it's for people it's harder to understand me. Sometimes it's all right. I don't know. I'm learning the communication, and this is the one of the main things that actually really interests me, as well as rewinding back, like as you talk, the communication between the rope and yourself, as well as between anybody else. What we are touching is some sort of communication. If we are picking a phone, this is communication between me and the thing as well, like what we are using. So it's kind of big topic, as well as the big topic is the rhythm. Like everything is the rhythm, and that communication goes in the rhythm as well. So like layering up and layering.
Well, I actually like to think of movement as a language, and I think that a good goal for anybody with the language of movement is to have a broad vocabulary of movement, because we express ourselves through movement. Most of communication is nonverbal. How somebody's holding themselves, how somebody is moving, how somebody places themselves within a group of other people. So yeah, I do think movement is a language, and the more people can get out of their head and thinking brain and into their moving body, you have a lot of capacity for self-knowledge, for learning, and for communicating with others non-verbally. So, I mean, really, movement as a form of self-expression is, or can be, very limited, especially in Western culture, right? Like we're taught that you can only say things a certain way. We have to look and act a certain way. So I think, and really, people as they grow, once they're kids, they stop playing. So, I mean, I remember when I first started joining the Octomoves app, one of the things I asked was, are we going to have some kind of tracking for this, so that I can have it on paper with numerical values, how many sets and reps? And you said, no, just you got to do it and play with it and explore. And that was kind of a big thing for me, because I'm so used to, from the fitness industry, that everything has to be measured and quantifiable that it was really freeing for me to say, no, I'm just going to go out and see what happens today. And I think that in and of itself is a huge turn for looking at movement and expression and fitness, is that it can be free form. It can be self-expression and art.
It is hard sell, but
It is.
and people like numbers, and people like tracking things, and I know we feel like some sort of fetish with it, but there's like whole culture is created around
Yeah.
that. And yeah, we as well thinking about the ideas how we can make it easy for people to track it, because at this point what I'm using myself, if I want to track, like if you're doing the Dragon the King template, so there's like tracking, there's a timing, you can use the metronome to tracking the reps. So
Yeah.
you're basically tracking a speed and time. So this kind of gives you a sensation and like a bit of knowledge of the intensity that you're doing in those intervals, which is plenty of information for you. But there's so much things that are impossible to track in the movement
Yeah.
practice, which is which is sometimes is even absurd. And like I used to run
I agree.
professionally, and like there's everything was tracked, and like all your training is like second to second, how much effort you should put, and like all of that, RPE intervals and all of that, like so much numbers, and started hating it. You started
I'm
hating
sure.
what you liked it, and it's like I achieved my goal that I wanted to achieve with the running, and it's over. Like I stopped running after like
Yeah.
half a year or so. I just went for a run without any phone, any watch, anything, and just run. And it's like, okay, I start feeling a joy again in doing
Yeah.
this. So it's like you're running and you stop because you see something and you just do there and just to play something, and it becomes like completely different practice. And later on, I found it that people call it naked running, tracking it.
Yeah. That's
So,
cool.
yeah, so it's like, okay, gotcha. But yeah, it's good to never forget that play side of the practice. But there's
Yeah.
like also another side of the coin, like at this point, for people to get stick to their habits, and like to first of all to gain them, maybe it's good to track something, and
Well, and
maybe
again,
it's
I can
good
tell
to
you a
track
little bit about
reps and
what
so
I've
on.
been doing
Yeah.
to see if it kind of falls in line with what you're saying. Like part of what I do as a warm up for rope flows, I start with some of the basic patterns that I'm trying to work on. So I'll do when I set up my playlist for music that I'm listening to. I try to pick songs that are about 5 minutes, and for the first 5 minutes, I try to do Matador circumnavigation and play with just some of the basic stuff, and then I'll do 25 dragon rolls on each side, and then I'll do a set of 10 hops or dragon switches with the hop on each side, and then I do 25 dragon hugs and 25 dragon heads. So that way I make sure that I have those patterns, that I can do that for a period of time without messing up. So that kind of is a baseline, and then I can go and play with how do I combine two movements together. Or so it can be good to do repetitions of a movement so that you can make sure that you have an established pattern. So if I can do the dragon roll 50 times on both sides without hitting myself, then I have a pretty competent pattern that I can take and start to increase the complexity of it, right? So we can start with counting how many reps you do just to make sure you have a fundamental pattern, and then going and saying, okay, now I know no matter what movement I do this from, no matter what entry point I take into the dragon roll, I know once I get to dragon roll, I'm okay. And that I think can help a lot with playing with a movement, because then you can have that security that, I know once I get here, I know what I'm doing. So maybe I go from dragon roll into a different pattern, and I'm then you hit yourself with the rope and you have to start over. But I know every time I can go from dragon roll, try something because I have the dragon roll comfortable. That's an established pattern. So that's kind of how I like to look at it. I'll use it as a warm up. I'll use it as a baseline, and then try to play with it outside of that.
So it's similar practice what I've been doing like years ago when I started learning, and that actually formed me the idea when the person knows the pattern.
Yeah.
And patterns, like, yeah, it can be over or underhand, and it can be like a dragon roll, cheetah tail, or sneak, whatever. This I think there's three patterns only, and you pick up the one of those, and you just practice for prolonged period of time, 5 to 10 minutes. And if you did zero mistakes in that period of time, you're good at it. There's
Yeah.
always some space to kind of get better and learn it more from that practice. But if you can do that, it's kind of good starting point. Like 5 minutes, in my opinion, is kind of good starting point. This is kind of period that you start getting a little bit bored in it,
Yeah.
and you start finding and understanding the pattern more deeper, because you
Yeah.
just scratch the surface, and now
Right.
you're getting deeper. And when you start finding some gateways to another pattern, is you start recognizing where is the transition
Yeah.
point to each one. Even you're doing the one, but you know already, because you just got bored, and like, if I would want to do the matador, I would know that I will exit at this point, and I will do certain
Yeah.
rotation, and it will end up in the matador without even putting a lot of effort and
Yeah.
engaging in it. Just the rope is flowing. I'm so kind of in tune in it. I'm communicating it with. I know
Yeah.
at which point of that pattern I just need to add extra effort, extra energy, transmit it to the rope so it flows, and you let it flow. It do the full revolution by
Yeah.
just one kind of exaggeration in some certain part, and you just letting, and you found that efficiency in movement. So
Yeah.
this is kind of a little bit more like a Tai Chi thing. So you're looking as effortless way to move and
Yeah.
accomplish the pattern that you wanna do it, but this requires a lot of repetition. And
Repetition.
doing this 10,000, 100,000 times, it's really, really good stuff. And the rope allows you to do so many times because you can go quite fast. Like you can
Yeah.
keep 100 to 150, which is kind of moderate pace a minute of the beats. So you
Yeah.
can an hour you gather thousands of repetitions.
Right.
And since we are training those basic three patterns, which are gait, like how we walk, our
Yep.
throw or punch pattern, and the swing pattern, and everything from that is kind of combination of it. So you're gonna improve those fundamental human body movement
Right.
with one single tool. So even after doing like 100,000 repetition with the rope, you pick up another sport that you're doing or you like doing, throwing a basketball, playing tennis, or whatever that is, and you notice yourself like, this is easier.
Yeah. Well,
And
and
yeah.
again, speaking from my own experience, I consider myself a beginner still, but I'm trying to be a beginner intelligently. And like you're saying, I'm not trying to learn as many patterns as I can, because then I really feel like I won't be as successful at it. I feel like if I spend my time trying to take a handful of basic movements and really, like you said, practice them 10,000 times each, that will make learning more complicated patterns easy, and I'm getting the best use out of my time. Because even with a handful of basic patterns, like you said, you can practice tempo, you can practice the size and shape of the movement, like doing a dragon roll tight versus doing a dragon roll with arms extended, to really get into the the finer details of some of those movements. Like if I were to talk to another beginner, the one thing I would say is don't feel like you have to learn everything right away, because you're in communication with the rope, you're in communication with your body. It is almost like learning another language, and if you get the fundamentals, you'll be successful in the long run. So that's what I'm trying to do with myself, is take my time, get the feel of it more than worrying about how long I do it or how many what the numbers are. And you mentioned the Dragon King template. I will be honest with you, I haven't used the template. I'll do dragon switches until I get tired, and I know I'm doing more now than I was a month ago. But I don't necessarily feel like I need to do it for 50 seconds on and 10 seconds off, because I know when I get tired, I'll switch to an easier pattern. And sometimes I'll do, a dragon roll to a matador, and sometimes I'll switch it up and try to do dragon pirouette as kind of a deload or a rest movement. But I've tried to do it a lot more by how I feel, and I feel like that's been good for me. I think from when I did the first video that I sent you, I had lost 22 pounds, and I think I'm down about 2 or 3 more now. So I'm in it for the long haul, nice and slow and even. And but yeah, it's something I look forward to every day. So I've tried to include it in my daily routine. And whether I'm doing it for cardio or whether I'm doing it as active rest, I feel like there's a place in my life every day for rope flow.
That's amazing. Well, maybe you will try to do the template at some point, because
I will. I
what I'm
will.
gonna fit it, it's like to train like top end speed as well,
Yeah.
to like a slow endurance, and the training the change in pace. So how fast and slow you can go,
Well,
and just like 6 different templates. So it kind of gives you a different experience every single time.
Right.
What kind of picking up from it. And later on, just even doing each of those one time at least, you get
Yeah.
experience what it feels like, and you
Right.
feel like how you're fatiguing. Yes, because the progressive overload principle is really like
Yeah.
that. That's why you're getting better, like what you did the
Yeah.
amount before and now. But like all of this experience, it's kind of mixes what you're getting with different timings, like how long you should do it and how
Right.
long you should rest and all of that. It gives you different experience and actually push you to certain limits in that point. So
Yeah.
that's where you can actually pick up a little bit more progress than you just
Yeah.
picking up
Well,
randomly.
and that wasn't entirely accurate for me to say that I've not used the template. What I'm trying to do is, I've the Octo race, or try to do it as many as you can in a minute. I'm going to revisit that at some point, but I would like to get to the I forget what we call it in the app. But for doing Octo race is the 5-minute one, right?
The Octa race is endurance training,
Right.
and
So
so you
I'd like
can
to be
go
able to
like
get to the
for
point where
one
I can
time.
do 5 minutes straight. I'm not quite there yet. So the Octo sprint in a minute, I'm going to try to do a video for that again to see if I've improved since the first time I've done it. I'm trying to build up so I can do the Octo race for 5 minutes. That actually is a lot. And I feel like I'll have a good milestone once I've gotten there. So I am still doing the Dragon King training template, but I haven't got to the individual daily challenges because I want to get the 5 minutes first. I'm not quite there yet.
Well, that's amazing. You will get there for sure.
Yep, slow and
Just,
steady.
yeah, to rewind a little bit back for another point that you told, that the great advice for beginners you gave it, just to start slowly and keep practicing
Yep.
stuff. So like in foundation course, if you had any chance to check it out, there's actually like a week dedicated for basically one pattern and the combination of it and the stuff that you actually getting more deeper. but also when you're beginner, you don't want that beginner leaving a little bit bored. Even though we are not really good at the pattern, you need to challenge them with the new challenges so that
Yeah.
we know what we're going to experience. Because
Right.
we are unconscious and competent at that
Right.
point.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so you
Right.
want to make them conscious where we are incompetent. And with the
Right.
practice, we get conscious and competent. And at the end of the day, like I am at the level where I'm unconscious I'm what I'm doing, but I'm competent on
Competent.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So it kind of goes all the way circle because you have
Well,
that
like,
experience and you know what we can expect and how we can improve and work on
yeah.
that.
Yeah. I think a great um, example of that is actually from the OctoForce training. Like the first thing you have in that training is you said before you start this, watch this video, and it's you doing a really aesthetically pleasing flow with the OctoForce. And so people go into it saying, I want to be able to do that. And then you try the archer and you're like, uh-oh. So, but yeah, I think that definitely slow and steady. I've heard the saying it's a marathon, not a sprint. So you want to just try to have a little success every day. And I think at some point it becomes more about the journey than the goal. So it's always good to have a specific goal you're working towards. Like I know that my goal is going to be the Jedi slice, and a lot of the other stuff that you do along the way can help prepare you for that, even if it doesn't seem like it. Right?
Exactly. You just
Like
pile it up.
um, practicing the uh, August circumnavigation challenge might not seem like it has a lot to do with the Jedi slice, but you're learning timing. You're learning, like I had to try, I think, I'm still not sure I got it right, but I had to try it 4 times to get the pattern. And each time, I'm learning and refining the pattern that I already had. And I'm getting better at knowing my awareness in space, getting better at directing the flow of the rope. So whether or not I ever nailed the 4-point circumnavigation, I still improve my vocabulary with the rope. And that, when I start to do more dynamic movements, is going to help because now I have the neurological framework that deals with moving your body through space and using the rope for momentum. So, regardless of what you're doing, you're still building on what you've already learned and you're still building towards your goal. So yeah, I kind of feel like every repetition that I do with the rope is getting me closer to where I want to be, but also it's a complete practice in and of itself. So yeah, that's
Yeah. This is amazing, Justin. So to wrap it up, even though you
yeah.
mentioned plenty of good tips and pieces of wisdom for people role playing, maybe you have one more to wrap it up and finish our conversation.
Yeah, so I'm gonna flip it on its head and I say do rope, but also lift heavy stuff. Because the Octave Power sandbag training has really, it surprised me how much how sore I got from it, for one thing. Because I was doing a lot of exercise, mostly calisthenic, and then I started with a relatively light weight with the sandbag, and I've been sore like every day. But at the same time, I've also increased within, I don't know, I think 3 weeks, I've increased my weight by 10 pounds and I'm starting to build up those repetitions again. And it also makes me feel a lot more stable while I'm doing the rope, as far as lower body and core stability. So cross training can be very important for rope flow. So rope flow is a great exercise, but it's always good to have, whether or not you do lift something heavy, it's always good to have another practice that can help build stability. So I think that Octo Power would be a great addition. or just doing some basic strength moves with like Octo Sling to build your physical strength and foundation for that flow. So that if people aren't thinking about that right now, that is something that you should think about in the future, because it will improve your skill at the rope.
That's amazing, Justice.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I like to say, the rope flow is a gateway to movement, and
Yeah.
then you just start putting more stuff, and your habits are built, and you're just getting better and better.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin, for your
Thank
time.
you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, Rokas.
Yeah, that was lovely. I really like it, and yeah, may the flow be with you.
I'm gonna go do it right after we finish.
Cheers.
Peace. Thank you.